I'll get sleep when I get sleep. I watched the one on Mr. Duke, yeah, about what he experienced on the moon, and then I listened to this one, from Michio Kaku, and then saw the other one about the Dead Sea Scrolls, and guys, whether or not we landed on the moon, whether or not the moon is an invention by space aliens or something like that, all that stuff is completely irrelevant to the Gospels. Okay. The Gospels are life is eternal, grace is infinite, and then share, care, give, and course need, built to last, obey natural laws that are given to you by an infinite essence that's far greater than your mind. And so all this stuff is really, when you go in the Dead Seas, these new Dead Sea Scrolls and this new stuff, and they found and got all these writings, and you're like, guys, forgive dead, trespass, love one, and eternal faithful peace. Okay. Understand the gravity of the situation and the photosynthesis of the, do right by the trees. Make sure your water is as clean and healthy as can be. Just Proverbs your way through the Psalms here. It's all the rest of this shit. It's like, why are we building robots? That guy has a thing with the robot and the way the robot actually, and because it has things that look and act in a way that we find sexually desirable in women, it elicits, like Robin Williams with the Coco the gorilla thing, so it's a little weird too. Yeah, it is, but it's animals reacting to certain kind of stimuli and what they've been through and how they've been treated, and not nature, not around a silverback male gorilla, stuff. And so, denying people what they're given, okay, in life by greater than your engineering imaginations and shit, with denying them the highest quality humility and kindness and understanding to live loving lives, not to coexist, right? It's just fundamentally wrong, right? And so Nobel Prize winner, it was like NASA has never returned to the moon, and yeah. And guys, be more concerned with living a good life, The other thing on the news today was all the people in Vado out there. Kiddos out there playing in the snow. A kid woke up and got him out here to play snow. It rarely happens, and it happens a lot less now than it did when I was a kid. Like I said, I told you we'd get snow on the mountains around, a lot of times right around Thanksgiving, and there'd always be signs of snow, okay, still on the mountains, okay, up until, what's that thing? Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah. You'd have some snow. You'd look and there'd be a little bit of snow. I say, now, no. Okay. It doesn't happen anymore because of the intense industrialized economic activity in El Paso and Las Cruces. We're a suburb of El Paso now, literally. Right? And it's sad. It's depressing. It really is. And I'm not concerned about structures on the moon. I'm not concerned about people watching us on people are whatever, I don't know. Marvin Martian. I'm concerned about doing things correctly. Okay. About understanding righteousness. Okay. And being good. And understanding the eternal truth of our existence through an infinite essence, that this came from that. Well, that's nice and fine and dandy, but we're here and we're living, and the stuff about Feynman when they sit there and say, the mind and the this and yeah. Okay, this phenomenon of us all having the constant, what we perceive as time and our minds and things to remember and things to do, and life being eternal and grace being infinite, we obviously share communication and memories and the, as they perceive as biological and psychological conditions. We've been in like structures through an infinite, through the soul, the essence of the infinite essence, through molecular structures, through eternity for as long as we can remember, right? And it's hard to remember everything that happened in sixth grade, right? Or even remember sixth grade at all sometimes, right? Depending on if that was a very good year for Frank Sinatra song, right? And so, sometimes things will come up and you'll remember things, and remember the walk, remember the cold, I remember that in Colville, the freezing of the nose, and I was freak out because I was from New Mexico, and it would literally freeze your nose hairs, and you had to squeeze your nose, and damn, because it would get so cold right up, just with Mom dropping us off at the corner and walking to the junior high school to get into the building, right? And I can remember it being that cold, and being from Las Cruces and never being that cold. Because we didn't spend, when we moved to Pasco, we left at the end of the school year, and we stayed all summer, and then just the first month of school, and then we moved to Tucson. And Tucson's warmer than Cruces, right? So by the time we moved back to up to Colville a year later, then I experienced cold for the first time in my life, So I was born and raised in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And then we went up to Pasco for about 6 months, but it was during the summer. And then spent the whole winter in Tucson. And then at the end of the school year, we went back up to Colville, and it was during the summer. And then when that winter came, that was a whole different experience for me. And that type of cold, that far above the equator. I was born here, down in Las Cruces. And so, those kind of experiences, you remember certain aspects of these changes and how the environment affected your thoughts and your, what you're dealing with. And, how Chris and Paul have never experienced this, and Jeff Seiss, my friends back in Cruces, and Stephen Vargas, but Ron did. Ron was from Seattle, but he was from I'm sure it's a different cold on the west side of the state with more moisture than it is over in the eastern part. It's cold, but so as you have certain memories and certain aspects of memories and different things and experiencing different cultural aspects through traditions, there were certain things that I knew I was going to really miss because they weren't as prevalent in Pasco. And then when we moved to Colville, I thought there's not going to be any brown people. I'm going to be miserable, just surrounded by white people that a lot of them were mostly probably bigoted. So I was not too happy about it. But there were enough Colville people, and there was Martin's Billy and Nathan Hogue, but Nathan was the only black person in town, him and his sisters. And I remember his sister, I had kind of a crush on his sister, but she was miserable. She hated it there. And they were both mad at their dad for having him there, but he was part Colville, and he had land and a house, and he didn't live on the res, but he lived by, and that was how he, quote, took care of his family. But it developed a lot of resentment and anxiety among his kids toward him. Yeah. Why can't we live in Spokane? Why can't we live in near Seattle or one of the other spots where there's, so why do we have to live up here, around all these bigoted white people? Which I could understand that. Susie, that was her name, Susie Hogue. And I remember them both having, when you were in the house, you went to go visit his house. Nathan's dad was a lot older gentleman. And I remembered that, feeling that, especially from Susie, she was very upset. And slightly from Nathan, but more from Susie, that resentment and that anger towards their father for having him there. And which I could completely understand. Because it was the bigotry, the stupidity they had to tolerate till they could get the hell out of there was really hard, you know. And so, I'm more concerned with eliminating those kind of dynamics, those kind of irrational human interactions, you know. If we all die tomorrow from a planet comes through in 1994 and then it's replaced by sorcery and super science, right? Thundar the Barbarian, you know. Don't be concerned about woulda, coulda, what could happen, what be prepared and all that stuff. Be more prepared to do things right so the things that we're doing wrong don't make our lives miserable, you know, eternal wretchedness, Blaise Pascal. And so I understand why, okay. I'm a person of importance throughout history. Why I'm anonymous? I'm not anonymous. People in town know who I am, you know. And people, it's just weird that when you talk to people, they get very, my own dad does, my own family, you know. Some of them will scoff and, oh, that's just stupid and crazy. And then I'll talk more and then it kind of stops and then they get very humbled because I won't attack them and fight them. I'll just explain things intelligently and simply and say, you really believe in the magic sky kingdom and you don't believe in eternity given to us by, and, you know, our connection to our relatives that tried to understand eternally through faithful communication and love and, you know, someone to care for, to be there for, you know, and to share and to care. And, you know, so I used to get angry because I got tired of, how can you tolerate this kind of insanity and pass it on to your children? Now I get patient and I get like, look, I'm just trying to help you survive this hell so we can help stop and eliminate the abuse of it so we can all recover together and then share that eternity with our ancestors and our descendants, you know, till the end of time on planet Earth and maybe even beyond. I'm not sure, but I'm not as particularly concerned about what happens to beyond. I'm more concerned about what's happening right now and that we're not replicating. You know, like reason why I dropped out of college was, you know, they won't let us stop repeating the same mistakes that we did in the past to try to celebrate the delusions of our grandeur through our invention, instead of coming together and making sure that our invention sustains us with love and intelligence and honors the gifts of life that sustain our capacity to love intelligently. You know, so I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm going to go in there and take my shower and then crash. It's going to be after midnight by the time this sucker loads. But I look at it I used to, you know, be concerned, I want to get on a certain schedule and stuff like that. Now I'm just merely connecting to the technology and surviving, you know, and stuff. And I do understand that, you know, there are certain things that will make my survival more comfortable, that I have to make sure that I have, I do, we don't eat a lot of processed foods, no, not at all. And, but I do have some of the sugars and stuff that I could cut down even less, but I kind of eat them and stuff because I connect to Amy and her kiddos and I love them and I want to feel their pain and suffering so I can help them through. But if it's not working because you guys have no intention on helping them live better lives, you know, I do, but you don't. You know, I can't make you love me if you don't. I'll feel the beauty of the faith and the power of the glory, but you won't. You know. So I can't make you love. You know, my mom's little favorite songs and stuff she listened to before she passed away. She also likes, let's give them something to talk about. Yeah, it's cute. But I don't want to give them anything to talk about. Live your own life, and stop trying to study mine because yours is so inferior to mine because no one wrote it down and talked about it every Sunday for 2,000 years because you're such an asshole and I'm not. I don't want to give you something to talk about. I'm tired of all the shit you guys have to talk about. To getting you to like, share, and subscribe. It helps me more than you ever know. You get rich, and then I get to do all the stupid things that stupid people do to feel important and meaningful. I was like, there's nothing meaningful about being superficial, shallow, selfish, aggressive, and cruel. And funny thing is, with a lot of the girls that were really, really, really physically desirable, I never really, I'd like them to be better people. But it's the same as it's always been with me. I'm not particularly interested in getting to know them and having any kind of a emotional or affectionate relationship with them because they compare you to others. They're abusive. Like I told you in the service when the girls would always talk about how they needed a large genitalia to enjoy the sexual experience. And a lot of them were black women, and they would say, I need to lose this so much. And we'd talk, and they'd start hitting on me. I was like, hey, you don't have to worry about me. I can't fill your order. That's what I would always tell them. I can't fill your order. So you won't enjoy the sexual experience with me. So we shouldn't even bother thinking or talking about it, because even if we were both available for it to happen, I wouldn't want it to happen because if I sit there and tell you, I require a 38-inch bust and 42 in the hips, and you're close on the boobs, but your butt ain't anywhere near the, So no, I don't want to play with your bongo drums because I'm not going to enjoy it as much as if, I wasn't like that. I love women, and I don't compare them to the ones that came in the past. And I don't put myself in a situation where anyone will replace them once I decide that she's the one I want to be with. And she wants to be with me, and I trust her, and I believe her. And so I don't understand the fear of selfishness. I don't understand it. And I'm like, my mom, shit or get off the pot. And, when you love somebody, and then I ended up having the greatest sexual reputations everywhere I went. When they found out about me, it's like, but he's, 5 3/4. I might have been, probably 6, yeah. Especially when I was with Steffi. Yeah, I got myself in shape before she came out and stuff. Yeah. She had everything working really good, yeah, but she was killing me. No, it was the military. It wasn't her fault. When you're young and you meet somebody who wants to marry you and have your children, you should be respected, and you should be able to have what you need to plan for your family and provide for your family. You shouldn't be turned into a genocidal mercenary tool bag for a bunch of scientific perverts that don't have anything better than to do to make your life miserable because they're jealous of you because people don't talk about them or read about their existence every Sunday for corporations that make lots of make-believe money and feel powerful by manipulating people with it, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't envy any of you having, excessive, compulsive, narcissistic sex lives into your late 50s or 60s, full of yourself, thinking you're the God's gift to sexuality, and everybody that has the same ego problems as you wants to be as iconic or more iconic than you. I don't envy your ass at all. I could have out-fucked you any day of the week if I wanted to. Look, Bob's mom's throwing him a knife. But it wasn't, like the whole thing that Rockefeller told me about Gordon B. Hinckley. Yeah. You turned down more sex in junior high than that guy got offered his whole life, Earl. Damn. I don't know if that's like, wow, I'm amazing, or wow, that's pathetic for him. Right? I think it's more pathetic for him. Yeah, it's true. But when guys are part of a You got to think about it, okay? Ezra Taft Benson, Spencer J. Kimball, and Gordon B. Hinckley. Okay, you're talking about nerdy, self-righteous, pompous, pious assholes that spyware on people's bedrooms, and a lot of them are young girls going through puberty and then judging what's happening in their lives because of economic manipulation. So you can see why women wouldn't offer them sex their whole life. They had to like buy it, sell it. Yeah, I understand perfectly why more women hit on me in junior high school than Gordon B. Hinckley got offered sex his whole life. It makes perfect sense. And then the woman he ended up with wanted this tribalism and this false sense of security through a virtual presence, through money, making us all feel safe because I make him feel safer because she has that, rich old man she won't have to worry. She'll dress up all in lace and go in style. My, oh my, you sure know. And then it's like, wow, did Henley write that one? Okay. And then what, I didn't want to know that about Dan Henley and what happened with those girls. I did not want to know. I'm like, that really fucks with my head with Lion Eyes and One of These Nights and Peaceful Easy Feeling. And Dan Henley's full of shit. They all are. Oh, fuck, that sucks. Okay. They're all full of shit. They're all business partners with Ezra Taft Benson, Spencer J. Kimball, and Gordon B. Hinckley, and the Vatican can't. Okay. Wow, that sucks. It does. Well, at least the cool part is that the books, like Book of Revelation, isn't about any of those assholes. It's about me. And I'm not a home invasion, debt, and trespass. I feel powerful and feel pretty and charming and gay. I watched the one on Robin Williams. Yeah, I've seen it before, and it's sad. And I watched the one on Chappelle with OJ, and I laughed, but it's also sad, because you're like, you shouldn't have to have a career to pay extortion to live here. You shouldn't have to act a fool to entertain people that are fools. You should be able to be a good person. And if something's funny, it's like, it'll be even more funny. Natalie and Noah and all of them will be even more funny in the future because it will be real, just jovial, fun, kind caringness and not people trying to imitate Jack Nicholson, who's got bad brain activity because he wants to be a star, right? Or any of the comedians on TV giving monologue, making jokes about our economic, psychotic, genocidal dysfunction and how it ruins our intimate lives, and we turn them into sex lives for lots of money, and then you get lots of awards for it, and you're like, holy fuck, this sucks. It's all just a big scheme. It's not to sell food. It's to hold food hostage, hold the housing hostage, and make you feel frugal when you don't spend a lot of money on things, so you have lots of money to feel important and powerful in the future when money's eliminated from the face of the planet because it's irrational and genocidal, right? So guys, I love you. Let's load this one up. See you in the morning. All right, already is morning. Okay. See you after I wake up. Peace.